Naruto, Unlocking Genius with 10 Skill Bars. Episode 21, Boil Style Development Skill Bar Pervert. What to do to fuse 2 chakra attributes. Shiyu is completely at a loss, but it is not without reference. The penetration that has been mastered now also belongs to the category of the blood succession limit, but the chakra attribute of the fusion of penetration makes Shiyu a little confused. Release to tune. Feel the vibration of the transcendent chakra. Shiyu faintly sensed something, but seemed unable to perceive anything. Analyzing chakra fusion skills. Analyzing. Can this also be parsed? Daxian, why not? Well, although this guy has rudimentary intelligence, his IQ is obviously not enough. If there is such a function, tell yourself earlier. 10%, 15%, 20%. The growth rate is not bad. After the chakra fusion analysis is completed, does it mean that I have mastered the skill of chakra fusion? Daxian, theoretically yes. Theory? Is it just in theory? Is it true or not? Shiyu was speechless, but did not continue to ask. Wait until the analysis is complete and you will know. Keep the use of the chakra that is transparent, so that the chakra in the body can be continuously integrated. The progress of analysis is also constantly increasing. 5% parsing progress per minute. 20 minutes later, the analysis was finally completed. Congratulations to host for acquiring new skills, chakra fusion skills. In an instant, a lot of new knowledge flashed in Shiyu's mind. It seemed to be instinctive to use transparency before, and now Shiyu knows what needs to be done first to fuse the 2 strands of chakra. It goes without saying that 2 types of chakra's nature transformation are performed on 2 different parts of the body at the same time. Then bring the 2 strands of chakra together to keep the chakra from colliding with each other. Try to merge and do nature transformation again. Although it sounds simple, it actually works. These steps are not so simple. Can you continue to analyze? Can water and fire merge? Daxian can only analyze skills that have been or are being learned, but cannot analyze skills that even the host does not know and is not learning, and the calculation ability has not been fully restored. In other words, it is only by myself? Daxian, yes. Forget it. Now that you have mastered the skills of fusing chakra, it's not a big deal if you try to fuse the 2 kinds of chakra, water and fire. At least the first step knows what to do. Perform chakra's nature transformation in 2 different locations on the body. The best place Shiyu can think of is nothing more than left and right hands. The left hand performs the nature transformation of the water attribute, and the right hand performs the nature transformation of the fire attribute. Both sides were carried out at the same time. In the first attempt, Shiyu couldn't control chakra at all, and chakra was in a mess. The second time, this time it was about the same. Half an hour passed unknowingly while trying the first step, and Shiyu was finally able to barely maintain 2 seconds of chakra nature transformation. But that little bit of chakra is far from reaching the level that requires 2 strands of chakra to be fused together. However, although chakra rioted again this time, he scattered uncontrollably. But I heard the system beep. Congratulations to host for mastering new skills, chakra dual attribute changes. Shiyu was dumbfounded. What does this mean? Daxian, the system has recorded the new skills of host. Needless to say, Shiyu glanced at the dual attribute changes in the skill list. The system has recorded this ability, which means that he can now hang this ability on the passive skill bar. Immediately, Shiyu's eyes lit up, and he took off a chakra refining technique and put the skill on it. As soon as the skill is hung up, 20 seconds later, passive skill 6, chakra double attributes change, complete a run. The familiar feeling reappeared again, and Shiyu felt that he seemed to have a better grasp of the dual attribute changes. As always, the skill bar can make one's mastery of this skill increase crazily. Doesn't this mean that in the process of merging water and fire chakra, every small progress can be recorded as a skill by the system, then consolidate, or break through, this skill, by hanging it on the passive skill bar? When it is strong enough, you can proceed to the next step. Powerful. Too strong. You are the most pervert in the passive skill column. Since this is the case, then the chakra refining technique, only one remains. Replace all others with this skill. And after hanging 2 of the same skill, casting this skill will directly become free of consumption. Every 20 seconds, a little bit of Shiyu's dual attribute changes will be enhanced. At the same time, Shiyu is also constantly updating his skills, so that he is more and more handy for the chakra nature transformation that performs 2 attributes at the same time. It can be seen with the naked eye that Shiyu's skills are improving rapidly. It seems that the development of boil style is not impossible, and it might be done tonight. Shiyu is very excited, not only because boil style can be developed, but more importantly, other blood inheritance boundaries in the future. He can also do the same and master them all. All blood follower limit Shiyu can be obtained, but that's for later. The most urgent thing is to fully grasp the changes of chakra's dual attributes as soon as possible, at least to the extent that they can be integrated. 2 hours. Shiyu updated his skill status nearly 50 times almost every few minutes. The maintenance time of dual attribute changes has reached 1 hour. Chakra after these attribute changes cannot be stored, so the only thing Shiyu can extend is the maintenance time. I was able to keep both types of chakra together for an hour, Now I should be able to move on to the second step, fusion. Shiyu removed the dual attribute changing skills and replaced them with chakra refining. The second step is chakra fusion, which is more dangerous than the first step. Two chakra with different attributes are fused in the body, and if you are not careful, you will really explode and die. Let's try in vitro fusion first. Shiyu clasped his hands together, and the two kinds of chakra seeping out from his palms, they just touched each other before they started to fuse, and there was an astonishing fluctuation suddenly. Boom! An astonishing ripple spread out. Shiyu's whole body was blown away. At the same time, the water droplets that exploded in the room shot out like bullets, and the scattered flames also ignited the curtains. After landing, Shiyu clutched his chest. Before he had time to check his situation, he quickly extinguished the fire on the curtain. Sitting in a messy room, Shiyu smiled helplessly. It seems, it is not so easy to develop blood succession boundary. But Shiyu won't just give up. Continue. But it's better not to be at home. Episode 22. Development blocked windfalls. Come to the forest where Shiyu was brought by the moonlight blast last time. At this moment, the sky has completely darkened. The surrounding area was also very quiet, and there was no sound at all. Such an environment is very suitable for Shiyu to perform chakra fusion. Let's start. It should work in one night, Shiyu thought in his heart, but when it really started, Shiyu really understood the difficulty. Why blood succession limit boundary can be longed for by many ninjas. Developing a blood succession limit is definitely not a trivial matter. Boom, boom, boom. Every 10 minutes, there was an explosion in the forest. Shiyu carefully controlled the two strands of chakra, after almost burning down the house before. Now Shiyu has only a little bit of fire and water chakra at the same time. Chakra of two attributes, this tiny amount. If used alone, the power of the explosion is nothing at all, but it can be used as two strands of chakra to try to fuse. The burst of strength gave Shiyu a headache. There were dozens of explosions in succession, although Shiyu was not injured under deliberate control. It's just that the hands were torn and opened many holes. The terrible thing is that his clothes were torn to shreds by the berserk chakra, and Shiyu tried to adjust his state as much as possible every time after a dozen attempts. However, even so, there is still no change. Or not even a little bit of progress. The two strands of chakra will explode as soon as they touch, and they will explode as soon as they touch, let alone merge, and it is best not to even touch. Shiyu was helpless lying on the ground, showing a large character, looking at the moon overhead. How can the two strands of chakra be fused together? It started at about 6 or 7 o'clock and continued until late at night. Shiyu was a little exhausted, but there is still no progress. Under such circumstances, Shiyu doesn't know when he will be able to succeed. It seems that I want to develop a blood succession limit overnight. This is simply a dream. Shiyu was a bit premature in his previous bold words. It's no wonder that Shiuji boundary is valued by major ninja villages. If this ability is not because of the special upgrade, it will lead to the inexplicable fusion of chakra. If you want to master it the day after tomorrow, it is simply as difficult as climbing the sky. Of course, there is another way. That is to catch a tailed beast and learn how to fuse two strands of chakra from the tailed beast. Isn't Sand Shinobi's magnet style learned from Shizuru? And if I want to master boil style, is it possible to catch only 5 tails? The integration of chakra shouldn't be so difficult. The chakra fusion skills mastered by Shiyu should not feel like this. Daxian, reminder, the host may not have enough water and fire chakra power. Water and fire attribute chakra is not powerful enough? What's the meaning? I have mastered 2 nature transformations, but the power is not enough? Is it because I have too little chakra? Daxian, for example, the water attribute chakra is 80%, and the fire attribute chakra is 20%, but it is necessary to maintain a certain balance between the 2 chakra powers, and the host cannot do it yet. Mastering nature transformation does not mean that the attribute chakra's power is fixed. Is there such a saying? Shiyu sat up and thought about it. If it is understood according to this statement, then mastering nature transformation is only able to better exert the power of attributes. But it does not mean that the power of attributes cannot be continuously enhanced. My current attribute strength is too weak, and no matter how I try, I can't meet the minimum requirements for blood successor boundary fusion. That's why they keep failing and making no progress at all. It seems that in order to successfully develop the blood succession limit, first of all, the power of the 2 chakra attributes must reach a certain strength. Just like the active skill said, the burst power of 20% fire attribute chakra needs to be equal to the power of 80% water attribute chakra. This situation cannot be achieved at all when the strength of the 2 chakra attributes is the same. I see. Using this kind of thinking to think about other blood succession boundaries, it seems to make sense. Although it is an attribute fusion, there are traces of who is fused. It is impossible for the fusion of each blood succession boundary to be 50% to 50%. There must be a difference, but how to maintain the balance between different ratios? Just like a caddy of cotton and a caddy of iron, although they weigh the same, they have different volumes. Then I need to increase the power of nature transformation of water and fire attributes now? Daxian, it may be. Alright. The answer to this question is no, but it's very possible. Enhance the power of nature transformation. What should I do? Practice ninjutsu? Dashin. Host can directly put water style and fire style skills into the skill bar for passive enhancement. Water style? Fire style? Shiyu froze for a moment, then immediately opened the skill bar, looked at a large list of optional skills, and directly searched for water style and fire style. Alright, even water style and fire style, this kind of nature transformation is also counted as a skill. Really, any ability can be counted as a separate skill. Seeing this, Shiyu suddenly thought of a bigger problem. Water style and fire style count as skills. So if I put 2 water styles into the passive skill bar, then releasing water style ninjutsu will be able to achieve the effect of consumption. Without waiting for an answer, Shiyu started the experiment directly. Passive skill 1, 2, water style. Water style, water chaos. Boom. When the water flowed out crazily, it swept directly towards the forest, constantly impacting the trees along the way. The astonishing impact of the water directly broke the trees within 10 meters away instantly. The big tree collapsed suddenly, and the sound of rushing water continued to sound, and Shiyu stood where he was, letting the reversing water flow past him. Shiyu's hands trembled slightly. Really, no consumption. Load 2 water styles and unleash the water styles at no cost. Theoretically speaking, the release of water style is to carry out the nature transformation of the water attribute on chakra, so as long as this step is carried out, Shiyu will not be consumed. As for whether the chakra after nature transformation is released, the real itself is already an energy created out of thin air. Naturally, there is no problem in releasing it. Unexpectedly, blood succession boundary was not successfully developed, but I got this by accident. Episode 23. Little Sakura, Naruto, you are too self-motivated. Early morning, at the gate of the ninja school, Shiyu yawned and walked slowly into the school. Not far away, Ino ran and jumped over. Good morning, Shiyu-kun. Why does Shiyu-kun feel like he's not in good spirits today? Didn't he sleep well last night? Of course I didn't sleep well. Shiyu basically hasn't been idle since he got home from school yesterday. First, learn fire style, master the fire attribute nature transformation, and then practice simultaneous dual attribute transformation. Then start to blend chakra again. Busy until midnight, although I did not succeed in developing boil style. But fortunately, I found a direction, and also accidentally harvested the method of releasing ninjutsu without consumption. Although not all escapism Shiyu can be released without consumption, but at least Shiyu of an attribute of escapism can be released easily and without consumption. In this situation, Shiyu hangs 2 water styles and 2 physical skills on the skill bar. Basically, you can release water style battles without consumption, and at the same time, your physical strength is unlimited. As for the release of other ninjutsu, it doesn't matter if you consume a little chakra. The chakra refining technique can quickly restore the consumed chakra. This achievement can be regarded as making Shiyu not complete the development of Shuuji, but it is still worth spending so much time. After returning home in the middle of the night, Shiyu began to hang the 2 skills of fire style and water style on the skill bar. Shiyu has not replaced it until now. The current passive skill bar configuration is passive skills 1 to 4, chakra refining, passive skill 5, fire style, passive skill 6, water style, passive skill 7, Konoha flow swordsmanship. Chakra grows. This point, Shiyu is to keep it maximized as much as possible. Although hanging 2 water styles can guarantee the release of water style ninjutsu without consumption, the power depends on the mastery of nature transformation on the one hand, and the amount of chakra invested on the other. Only by increasing the amount of chakra can you release ninjutsu without consumption, and the power becomes even more terrifying. So after Shiyu came home last night, he didn't go to sleep immediately. Instead, the status of the chakra refining technique was updated again, and the physique was continuously strengthened under the blessing of Konoha-style swordsmanship. Although the magnitude of the enhancement is not as obvious as physical skills, but at the end of the day, it also increased a lot. Shiyu felt that his own strength was at least increased by the strength of an adult man. At the same time, in terms of speed and responsiveness, it is the real crazy growth. More importantly, Shiyu felt that his understanding of swordsmanship had stepped into a whole new realm. If he fights against Gale again, and simply fights with swordsmanship, then Shiyu feels that he can finish him with one move. Not to mention that chakra has reduced 1 skill column, and the number of status updates is only once. Although Shiyu felt that the amount of chakra had almost doubled when he woke up, that is equivalent to 24 times that of Sasuke chakra. But if you think about it carefully, you will find that the growth rate has decreased a lot. Mr. Shiyu. Mr. Shiyu? Ino didn't have time for Shiyu to reply, a little confused. What did Shiyu do last night? Hearing her voice, Shiyu came back to his senses and nodded to Ino. I am here. Was Mr. Shiyu busy last night? Just busy practicing. Practice? Have you practiced for a long time? Although it is very important to practice after graduation, Mr. Shiyu must also take care of his body. Ino turned around and took something from the backpack behind him, quickly pulled out a well-packed bento. I prepared this specially for Shiyu-kun. Shiyu looked at the thing stuffed into his hand. Thank you. Why only Shiyu has it? I want it too. I don't know when Choji appeared, maybe when he was talking about eating, he appeared at the first time. The sudden appearance of Choji made Ino feel as if someone had discovered something wrong with his conscience. Suddenly I was a little embarrassed, and I couldn't even speak. Seeing this, Shiyu repelled Choji. You want a bento box? I'll grab all your snacks. Ah. Then I don't want it anymore. Talking. Sasuke on the side walked by and cast a glance at Shiyu. It's so noisy. After saying something coldly, he walked over. Shiyu glanced at Sasuke. He was still so lonely. This guy should really want to blend in. But the tsundere Sasuke probably can't let it go. In class, Shiyu was depressed and there was nothing he could do. Wanting to take a break and let Ino watch over him, he quietly lay down on the table to sleep. And at this time, the snoring sound came out. During class time, even if someone is sleeping, they are still snoring. Of course it wasn't Shiyu who was snoring, it was Naruto. Naruto. Iruka let out a roar that could be heard throughout the school building. Naruto was almost scared out of his wits by the roar. Stand up straight, what's the matter? What's the matter? What monster? When he came back to find Iruka staring at him with cold eyes, Naruto realized what happened. Sleep during class time. Naruto, you are too self-motivated. Little Sakura spoke. Naruto, who was nothing before, was heartbroken when he heard little Sakura's words. When I looked back at little Sakura, I just realized that Sasuke and Shiyu were also deserting and sleeping. Aren't they both the same? When Sasuke was mentioned, little Sakura glared at Naruto, while Ino also stared at Naruto. Little Sakura, how can you say that to Sasuke? Mr. Sasuke must be tired. Ino, Mr. Shiyu also practiced late at night last night before falling asleep from exhaustion. Hearing his name, Shiyu woke up in a daze. What's wrong? All three of you go out and stand for me. When Iruka's voice sounded, Shiyu looked dazed, and he wouldn't be caught if he slept. Who made Iruka so angry? And you, Shikamaru? Don't think I didn't see it just now. Shikamaru looked helpless. He reacted so quickly. Was he still seen? The four walked out of the classroom in unison. Shiyu asked Shikamaru to understand what happened just now, turning to look at Naruto. If you are discovered, you will be discovered. And bring us along, Naruto, you are too dishonest. Naruto looked at Shiyu with some embarrassment. Sorry. Sasuke, huh? Although the arrogant Sasuke was a little dissatisfied, he didn't say anything. Forget it, since he can't sleep anymore. Then Shiyu should study the problem of blood succession carefully now, as well as the current level of water and fire nature transformation. Episode 24. Chakra attributes hidden in ninjutsu. Shiyu, when did you guys start sleeping in class too? Didn't you always listen carefully before? Shikamaru felt that Shiyu had changed before, but he didn't expect such a change. Naruto also nodded. That's right. Shiyu, you didn't know how to sleep in class before. Hearing this, Shiyu replied casually, last night, I practiced at home for too long, so I didn't go to bed until about 2 o'clock. This makes sense. Shikamaru sighed. Are you working so hard? You practice so late, no wonder you sleep in class. Graduation is approaching, and Shikamaru estimates that Shiyu also wants to sprint at the last time. Strive for a successful graduation. Some things are decided by nature. No matter how hard you try, it's useless. Sasuke said something abruptly. Shiyu looked at Sasuke suspiciously, but he didn't think Sasuke was mocking him. It's more like lamenting his own fate. However, Naruto was not happy. Cut. What are you pretending to be? Isn't it just that your grades are slightly better? What's the matter? Uzumaki Naruto, will surpass you sooner or later. Sasuke, Shiyu and Shikamaru stood in the middle, while these two guys started again. It's become commonplace over the years. The two bickered, and Shiyu didn't find it fresh long ago if you said something to me. Simply close your eyes and start to feel the recent situation of your two chakra nature transformations, fire and water, hanging up for one night, and now performing the nature transformation of the two attributes should be different. And Shikamaru watched Shiyu sleep standing up. This method is very good, I will try it too. Shikamaru also imitated Shiyu and closed his eyes while standing, and after a while, his body began to shake. There is no way to fall asleep standing up, but looking at Shiyu again, there is no shaking at all. This ability made Shikamaru envious, and even wanted to ask Shiyu for advice. However, Shiyu has no time to talk to Shikamaru at this moment, but is carefully feeling the power of nature transformation, the two attributes of water and fire in his body. Incomparably hot flames, thick and cool running water. Sure enough, the practice of nature transformation has made the attributes more powerful. With the same amount of chakra and the same technique, Shiyu feels that the power of the water style and fire style used now has more than doubled. I just don't know if the power of water style and fire style can be regarded as meeting the requirements of integration. But at this time, Shiyu discovered a new problem. The power of the two strands of chakra nature transformation has increased, but controlling the two strands of chakra seems to be more laborious. Chakra control needs to be strengthened, and this intensity of nature transformation seems to consume a lot of my mental power. Although it was only a superficial feeling, Shiyu had already discovered these problems. Chakra is easy to control. Directly put the two skills of climbing trees and treading water into the passive skill bar, and will soon be able to strengthen chakra's control. And the consumption of mental power cannot be changed by these two skills. Removed fire style and water style skills. Climbing trees and treading water are two skills that Shiyu has practiced long ago. After all, he is a traverser, so how could he not practice climbing trees and treading water? As for mental power, I'm afraid I have to rely on illusion. The basic illusion scroll given by Haifeng, Shiyu has also taken the time to analyze it with active skills. However, I haven't put it in the passive skill column to see the effect. Now remove a chakra refining technique again, and replace it with the basic optical illusion skill, silently counting the time. In less than 5 seconds, the system prompts that the operation is completed once. The running time of climbing trees and treading water is about 17 seconds. This running time is already considered fast. Shiyu began to feel the changes in chakra's control, and whether the operation of illusion can really enhance spiritual power. Although Shiyu guessed like this, it is not necessarily accurate. After 30 minutes, get out of class was over. After the four were severely reprimanded by Irika again, they were allowed to return to the classroom. Back in the classroom, Shiyu lay down and continued to pretend to be sleeping. But in fact, it is to feel whether one's mental strength is enhanced. Of course, you can't feel it directly. Shiyu flows in the body, through the chakra, produced by manipulating the dual attributes of water and fire, nature transformation, and feel whether your spiritual power has increased. Sure enough, it seems to be much easier to operate than before. But Shiyu did not see the analysis of active skill Shirkai, so the illusion cannot allow Shiyu to obtain the nature transformation of Indun. Spiritual power is indeed increasing, which means that illusion is indeed related to Indun, but the skills don't analyze. Shiyu thought about it. Is it because the basic visual illusion is not enough to allow the skill to analyze the Indun nature transformation? At present, it seems that there is only this reason. But basic illusions are not good, so what about high-level illusions? There should be no problem. Shiyu no longer has to worry about how to obtain the 5 tranquility nature transformation. So now only Indun and Yongdun are left. Indun, Shiyu speculated that illusion might allow him to obtain Indun nature transformation, and Yongdun speculates that medical ninjutsu, such as healing jutsu, can help him obtain Yongdun's nature transformation. Advanced illusion and healing jutsu are not so easy to get. Advanced jinjutsu is rare ninjutsu, and healing jutsu is extremely difficult to master, so there are usually no flowing ninjutsu scrolls. If there is no one to teach it, it is impossible to learn it only by relying on a ninjutsu scroll. So naturally there is no healing jutsu or ninjutsu scrolls for advanced illusions. If you want to get healing jutsu, you need to start from Konoha Hospital, or find a medical ninja, although somewhat difficult. However, Shiyu will never give up on the nature transformation of Indun and Yongdun. As the basic visual illusion continued to run, Shiyu even felt more energetic. This feeling proved once again that illusion can indeed help increase mental strength. Illusion can help increase mental strength, physical skills can help enhance physical fitness, and at the same time basically enhance life energy. Then the effect of the chakra refining technique can be improved faster. It seems that in the future, physical skills and illusion skills must be resident in the skill column. After school, Shiyu didn't choose to go home this time, and just found something to eat on the street, then went straight to the woods. After treading water and climbing trees for so long in the afternoon, Shiyu also felt that chakra's ability to control had improved a lot. Now it is not a problem to control the stronger water and fire attribute chakra. At the same time, due to the illusion, his mental strength has also been greatly enhanced. Then it's time to start trying chakra fusion again. And this time, there is great hope for success. Episode 25. The fusion begins, chakra boiling. The power of nature transformation, chakra control, spiritual power. The factors of integrating chakra should be all together. Shiyu exhaled lightly, and just sat on the ground casually. Try the chakra fusion again this time and you shouldn't have any problems. Even if the power of nature transformation is still not enough, it is nothing more than a problem of hanging for a while. Tonight, the fusion must be successful. As long as the fusion is a little bit successful, it can be recorded as a new ability by the system. Then continuously enhance the effect through the passive skill bar, and finally, complete the fusion thoroughly. With the skill bar, Shiyu only needs to start, and the rest can be handed over to the skill bar. Thinking of this, Shiyu closed his eyes and began to adjust his state. Chakra fusion. The weak fusion of water and fire dual attributes before only used a little bit of chakra. The power that erupted made Shiyu miserable. Now the chakra of the two attributes has been strengthened. In this case, even a little explosion from chakra fusion, Shiyu's carelessness can be very dangerous. Try it with the weakest chakra first. Control the least amount of chakra possible for fusion. And the ratio. Naturally, the first 50% to 50%. While looking at the effect, observe the reaction during the fusion process. Then make adjustments. A small, faint flame ignited in the left hand. The right hand chakra condenses into a small drop of water. When Shiyu controlled the left and right hands together slowly, the two strands of chakra also gradually began to touch and merge, as before. The moment the power merged, there was a violent reaction immediately. Boom! The explosion this time was even more terrifying. Shiyu even had 2 wounds on his chest. Fortunately, the amount of chakra is not too much. The injury is not very serious, just torn the epidermis. But Shiyu didn't take the pain into consideration. Instead, carefully recall the situation of the fusion of chakra just now, the enhancement of chakra's control and the increase of mental power. Let Shiyu feel more problems in the fusion process. The moment the fusion started, the power of the water attribute chakra seemed to be unable to restrain the flames, and it collapsed directly. And then the flames got out of control and exploded. Now it seems that I have finally figured out the root cause of every fusion explosion. The power of the flame was stimulated, but after the excitation, the water could not restrain the power of the flame. It would be strange if there was no explosion. In this case, then reduce the proportion of fire attribute chakra, directly reduced to 10%. If it doesn't explode this time, then even if the fusion is unsuccessful, it at least proves that there is no problem with the thinking. Shiyu treated the wound briefly, and then started the second attempt. Sure enough, after the ratio was adjusted, the moment the 2 strands of chakra came into contact and began to fuse, the flame wanted to explode, but it was restrained by water. There was no way to erupt at all, but the temperature of the water-attributed chakra began to change, and it began to become a little hot. But it didn't take long for the water attribute chakra to disperse directly. Shiyu opened his eyes. It didn't explode, but it seems impossible to fuse. Failure to fuse means that the proportions are wrong, or the fire and water attributes are not powerful enough. But even if the power is insufficient, chakra's fusion will not collapse. Therefore, we have to find a good ratio so that chakra will not collapse, and then slowly try to increase the power of nature transformation. After finding the direction, the next thing is much better. Water, fire, 80%, 20%. Wrong, 70%, 30%. Also wrong, 60%, 40%. A small burst occurred, and the effect seemed to be somewhat similar to an explosion. It seems that fire attribute chakra is too much. 65%, 35% is much more stable this time, but the final result is still a collapse. Collapsing means too much water chakra. 64%, 36%, 63%, 37%, 62%, 38%. This time Shiyu stabilized and lasted for 10 minutes. Knowing that 10 minutes later, the water in his hand was basically evaporated, and the flame still remained a little. Shiyu froze for a moment, wondering if this was a success. Congratulations to host, successfully mastered the fusion of water and fire attributes. Good. The system prompt undoubtedly gave Shiyu the answer. It worked, but it didn't fully integrate into boil style. First of all, although the chakra of the water attribute seems to be boiling, it does not meet the requirements of boil style at all. Perhaps this is the reason for the failure. Then you only need to continue to increase the nature transformation power of the water and fire attributes, and you should be able to succeed. And busy now, Shiyu looked at the time. It is already 12 o'clock in the morning. Before I knew it, 7 or 8 hours had passed. Concentrating on the fusion of chakra, completely unaware of the passage of time. But it doesn't matter, there is still time in the middle of the night, and the fusion of boil style must be completed. Now we need to look at the passive skill bar. Passive skill 1, fusion of water and fire attributes. Passive skill 2, fire style. Passive skill 3, water style. Passive skill 4 to 5, chakra refining technique. Passive 6, basic visual illusion. Passive 7, Konoha Ryu swordsmanship. The current passive skill bar configuration becomes like this. With the new skills installed, Shiyu can clearly feel the progress as time goes by bit by bit. After waiting for 5 minutes, Shiyu began to try. This time, the fusion of the 2 chakras tended to be stable, and there have been no problems. It's just that I feel the boiling of the water attribute chakra, and it keeps boiling, but there is no reminder that the fusion is successful. Shiyu just kept going. Daxian, host enhances both water and fire attributes at the same time, so it seems that the flame will never be able to make the water boil. Hearing this, Shiyu was dumbfounded. It seems, that's true. The strength of both chakras has increased, so wouldn't it have been maintained in this state? Daxian, suggestions. 1. Control the power of changes in water attributes. 2. Cancel the water style skill, only let the fire style increase. 2 suggestions. The first one is obviously very demanding for Shiyu now, especially the control of chakra. It may not be able to complete, then choose the second method. After Shiyu removed water style from the skill bar, the remaining fire style, the power is constantly increasing. 10 minutes later, hiss. Suddenly, the water vapor in Shiyu's hand began to explode crazily, and the burst of water vapor burned like a flame. At the same time, Shiyu's body began to seep out heat. The chakra inside is boiling. Shiyu opened his eyes suddenly. Congratulations to host, you have mastered a new skill, boil style. It's done. Episode 26. Unparalleled strange power and Konoha style swordsmanship. Whoa 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 whoa. The steam surging from Shiyu's body continued to erupt, and what Shiyu could feel at this time was the boiling of chakra in his body. That is far beyond the chakra in the usual state of chakra flow. Shiyu felt that with just a light handshake, the strength seemed to increase several times. Just maintaining the state of boil-style chakra nature transformation can bring about so much strength improvement. If it is to raise the chakra in the body to boiling point in one breath, raise it to ultimate, then what kind of terrifying power will erupt? Shiyu looked at the big tree that could only be hugged by two people 10 meters away. The 5 fingers clenched tightly for an instant, and the steam that was slowly rising in the next second suddenly turned into an eruption state at this time. Shiyu's skin began to redden visible to the naked eye, and it's just a physical change. More importantly, the chakra in Shiyu's body seemed to have turned into heat and flowed crazily. Shiyu felt full of strength, and that feeling was simply amazing. With a light clenched fist, the veins on his arm bulged fiercely, looking extremely hideous. It was like centipedes crawling all over Shiyu's arms. Steam was erupting from his whole body, and Shiyu suddenly stepped out in the next second. Boom buzz. In an instant, a pothole exploded in the ground, and Shiyu's figure rushed out directly, striking towards the distance. A mass of heat waves was left behind in a straight line. At the same time, Shiyu's punch hit the tree trunk. In the next second, the middle of the tree was broken. The flying sawdust was still floating in the air, and at the place Shiyu hit in the next second, a large circle of tree trunks instantly turned into countless fine debris, not even visible to the naked eye. Circle after circle of ripples in the air spread towards the distance. Boom! The big tree flew out directly, flying directly for a distance of tens of meters, and kept hitting other trees along the way. It was directly and completely shattered into pieces of residue. Shiyu stood where he was, looking at the mess within 10 meters in front of him. So powerful. Is this the power of blood successor boundary? Congratulations to host for mastering a new skill, boil-style unparalleled monster power. Strictly speaking, this technique is not ninjutsu, but a boil-style technique. As long as you have boil-style chakra, you can raise the chakra in your body to boiling point in one breath. This power can be erupted. At this moment, Shiyu recovered from the tremendous power. Feel the pain like a tearing arm. This feeling is simply killing me. Maybe he can explode this level of strength, but for Shiyu's body, it seems that he can't bear the explosion of this kind of power. No wonder Five Tails Jinchuriki Han want to get a set of armor for boil style. This kind of explosion, the general physique, can't come a few times at all. The reason why Naruto in the original book dared to use it at will, except that the Uzumaki family had a special physique. Coupled with the recovery effect of Nine Tails chakra, there is naturally no problem. But Shiyu doesn't have Nine Tails chakra now, nor does he have a special physique. Although relying on the passive skill bar to enhance his physique, Shiyu's physique has long surpassed his peers. Maybe even Chunin can't match Shiyu, but it still belongs to the range of ordinary people. Unless Shiyu's physique is strong enough to pervert, then boil-style's power will not be able to affect Shiyu. But think about it another way, if Shiyu's physique has been perverted to that point, how much can boil-style enhance Shiyu? So this problem has to be solved. Wood style. Shiyu's first idea. If you have the power of wood style, get Muji's self-healing ability like Hashirama, then the influence of boil style is not a problem. It is not so easy to obtain the power of wood style. Got to get earth style ninjutsu first, get earth style chakra first. Under normal circumstances, it is quite difficult for ordinary ninjas to get a ninjutsu. If you successfully graduate from the ninja school, you can apply to learn a basic 5-sense ninjutsu. However, there is still 1 month before graduation, and the time is a bit long. As for asking others to help, you can try Moonlight Gale, but that's fine with Uncle Masano. It's not easy for Chunnin to make a living. If you keep busy with yourself, what will happen to Uncle Masano's wife and children? In addition to considering wood style, Shiyu also thought of a way. Perhaps for ninjas, apart from methods such as wood style to enhance self-recovery ability, the only way is to use foreign objects. Craft a specialized set of armor, just like Han. But Shiyu doesn't just plan to use boil style as a kind of blood succession limit. Building a suit of armor specifically Shiyu didn't think was necessary, nor was it his style. But using foreign objects is a good idea. Use the boil style to build up power, and make sure to unleash power through your own fists as well. You can also pass the sword. It just so happens that his Konoha-style swordsmanship is already terrifyingly strong. Shiyu brought the wooden sword with him, so he just came to have a try. Naturally, wooden swords cannot bear the power of boil style, but what Shiyu wants to try is to use sword skills to explode his own strange power. Whether this idea will work or not. Pulling out the wooden sword behind his waist, boil style erupted again. Shiyu cut out with a sword. In the next second, Shiyu actually saw the airflow condense and turned into a slashing wave, which raged out instantly. It left a deep mark on the ground. It works. Shiyu nodded, feeling very good. In addition to being a special way of killing people, swordsmanship also contains unique techniques of exerting force. The strange power brought by the boil style can naturally also be erupted by the sword technique. But Shiyu turned his head and glanced at the wooden sword in his hand. Now only the hilt remains. Obviously nothing was hit, but the terrifying force directly shattered the blade of the sword. It turned into countless sawdust and scattered. Shiyu sighed. Now it's just a knife missing. Ordinary materials may not be able to withstand the power of boil style. I have to spend a lot of money to build a knife that can withstand my strength. It just so happened that Shiyu hadn't used the money left by his parents. Although Height promised to give him a sword after graduation, the quality is average, and a ninja sword of that quality should break after a few uses. Or spend a lot of money to build one yourself. The money left by my parents should be enough, but to build such a knife, I am afraid that I will spend a lot of money that I gave to marry a wife. Episode 27. The real name of the active skill. Shiyu-kun. Goodbye. Come early tomorrow. Ino waved at Shiyu. Shiyu also nodded at her. Finally made it to Friday. Since developing the boil style, Shiyu hasn't bothered much for several days. Just go to school honestly, and then increase the amount of chakra as much as possible. The configuration of the passive skill bar has always maintained the configuration of 1 to 5 chakra refining, 6 swordsmanship, and 7 illusions. I practice chakra refining at home every day after school, so that the effect of chakra refining is constantly updated, so that the efficiency of chakra growth will not slow down as more and more chakra. On the way home, Shiyu sighed softly. Originally, I had to practice water style, and blood succession boundary, and so on tomorrow. But Ino is too enthusiastic. How can you refuse a girl's invitation at will? Shiyu smiled. Recently Ino has become more enthusiastic about himself. Strictly speaking, as long as she is a girl, she is very enthusiastic about him recently. This also greatly increased Ino's sense of crisis, so I invited myself to play at her house on Saturday. The excuses used also made Shiyu feel a little funny. Ino, my dog can throw a hula hoop. Shiyu-kun, would you like to come and see it tomorrow? Whether dogs can hula hoop or not, Ino certainly can. It just so happened that tomorrow Shiyu also planned to go out to find a ninja shop or something, and order a ninja knife. Although they practice swordsmanship these days, using the power of boil style to display the power of swordsmanship is indeed no small matter. But what Shiyu used was just an ordinary ninja sword. It was just for practice, and the blade of the ninja sword had already cracked. Shiyu's boil-style power, plus the explosion of swordsmanship, the terrifying power generated is not something ordinary ninja swords can bear, so it is necessary to customize a good ninja knife. Back home, Shiyu took a short rest and started preparing dinner. After dinner, as always ready to start updating the status of chakra distillation. Now Shiyu's chakra volume, after these days, growth. Shiyu could pat himself on the chest and say that even a brat like Naruto who has the pervert physique of the Uzumaki family does not necessarily have more chakra than himself. It has reached the level of a chakra monster like Naruto. Most of Naruto's chakra is also used to suppress 9 tails, but he has no 9 tails to suppress. So now, the chakra that Shiyu can use is even more terrifying than Naruto. You can try to develop Rasengan after tomorrow. No traveler knows how to develop Rasengan. It would be too wasteful not to use such a good resource. If possible, get the shadow clone technique, body flicker technique, from Moonlight Gale as soon as possible. Needless to say, shadow clone technique is a cheat in practice cheats. Although it may not be useful for Shiyu, try it. As for body flicker technique, Shiyu is more concerned about the technique, speed, no matter what the world is, it is a vital attribute. I don't know what mission Moonlight Gale has. I haven't seen anyone for so many days. It is common for ninjas to go on missions outside of Ninja Village, but the mission of Moonlight Shiyu this time is obviously not something that can be completed in a short period of time. It's been several days, and I haven't seen anyone. It should be a place far away from the village to perform tasks. Looking at the mirror, Shiyu saw the obvious muscles in his abdomen, and the lines of his body became more symmetrical, gradually approaching the figure of the golden ratio. Even the height increased by about 2 centimeters. It is normal for a growing age to grow taller, but Shiyu's growth rate of 2 centimeters in a week is quite terrifying. The passive operation of Konoha swordsmanship can not only continuously enhance the ability of Shiyu swordsmanship, at the same time, it can also enhance physical fitness, but the speed is relatively slow. But no matter how slow it has been so many days, and the enhancement effect is equally obvious all the time. The mental strength has also been greatly enhanced, and the enhancement of physical and mental strength has brought about the most exciting change for Shiyu. The chakra refining technique, which used to run once every 5 minutes, has been shortened to 4 minutes. If this continues, the time will eventually be shortened to 0 one day. That time is the real infinite chakra. Today's physical and mental strength have also improved, and Shiyu also has to hurry up to update the status of chakra refining again. Although the further you go, the smaller the effect of updating skills. But without updating the status, the speed of chakra increase is getting slower and slower. Get ready for another round of chakra refining. Great Sage. Calculation ability is restored by 20%, and can assist host to perform skill update calculations. The sudden system sound made Shiyu stunned for a moment. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the screen that appeared in front of him. Shiyu blinked and looked at the screen in front of his eyes again. The name of the skill. Great Sage. That's right. It is a Great Sage, not a Great Sage. Is this the real name of active skill 3? The Great Sage, is this skill, this skill is in the slime world, and the ability is quite pervert. Basically, it can be said to be omnipotent. It's almost like carrying an artificial intelligence with you. Are you fully recovered? Great Sage: no, it just recovered part of the ability. Restored a part? Can the calculation ability be used? Great Sage: yes. When did you recover? Great Sage: yesterday. Why didn't you tell me? And when will your name be restored? Great Sage: the host didn't ask, the name was restored yesterday as well. Alright, although the effect of this skill is very good, and it also has a certain thinking ability, but it is only certain. After recovering, I didn't know to tell myself. How is your recovery now? How long will it take to fully recover? Great Sage: it will take about a month. That is to say, can you fully recover when you are about to graduate? Fortunately, knowing the recovery time is already very good. Correct. Just now you said that the calculation ability has recovered by 20%, and you can assist me in the skill update calculation. Great Sage: yes. Then let's begin. Shiyu wanted to see what difference the Great Sage's calculation ability could bring about. Episode 28. The terrifying effect of the calculus function. Shiyu should have thought of it earlier. Great Sage. The skills of this Great Sage can basically use the owner's own skills in various ways. Even if the skill can evolve in the future, it can evolve into the King of Wisdom. The amount of calculation is said to be greater than that of a quantum computer. That's when it's truly scary. Thinking of this, Shiyu couldn't help being a little excited. Although the current Great Sage has not yet evolved into the King of Wisdom, he is still very powerful. Great Sage: the calculus begins. Shiyu refines chakra normally as usual, and the Great Sage can perform extended calculations according to the process of Shiyu refining chakra. In this way, a better chakra refining scheme is calculated, even a version exclusive to Shiyu himself. Calculating. 1%, 2%. Little by little growth made Shiyu a little helpless. This is too slow. Great Sage: now only 20% of calculation ability. Although the Great Sage didn't say much, the sound of the system seemed to make the Great Sage a little dissatisfied. Shiyu didn't dislike it anymore. Although the speed was a little slower, Shiyu was still looking forward to the effect after the calculation was successful. With the chakra refinement completed, Shiyu opened his eyes and looked at the system interface. Completion of calculation, 67%. I have completed a chakra refinement, and the calculation completion is only close to 70%. Looks like we'll have to do it again. Shiyu refines chakra once by himself, which takes about 30 minutes. It was 40 minutes before. But when the physique is strengthened and the mental power is strengthened, Shiyu's own chakra refining speed has also been enhanced. Completing a refinement in half an hour is considered fast. This is still in the case of pursuing the perfect effect as much as possible. Carried out chakra refining again. This time Shiyu was not in a hurry and deliberately slowed down. It took a total of 57 minutes to complete the chakra refining this time. Almost an hour. Open your eyes. Calculation completed. The current state of host has been calculated. The most perfect chakra refining technique. Whether to update skills. Renew. Of course it will be updated. Update. Let me take a look at the current perfect check case refining technique. What kind of effect it is. After updating the skills, Shiyu looked at the system again. Watch the time while staring at the system. The same 4 minutes passed, and the system immediately indicated that the operation was complete. At the same time, Shiyu felt the chakra surging in his body. He opened his eyes suddenly, with a surprised expression on his face. The effect is more than 3 times higher than before. It turned out that I always thought that what I could achieve was the limit. It now appears that it is not at all. This is your true limit. The effect of this skill is simply too fierce. The best state I think I can achieve can be improved by 3 times in the system. Great Sage. If the calculation ability is complete, it is expected to increase to more than 10 times. 10 times more? Are you kidding me? Now the effect has been tripled. If nothing else, Shiyu's chakra volume is expected to increase by 3 or 4 times tomorrow, and it is still 3 or 4 times increased on the existing basis. At that time, the amount of chakra was unmatched even by Naruto. The chakra refining technique has now been raised to the limit, at least the limit of the current state. Then what about other techniques? Great Sage. Calculations can also be performed. Shiyu grabbed the ninja sword next to him. Then let's try Konoha Ryu swordsmanship first. Calculation and preparation. As Shiyu began to perform Konoha Ryu swordsmanship, the calculation of the system also started, but this time it was not as slow as before. It's just that within 10 minutes, Shiyu performed the Konoha Ryu sword technique completely, and the calculation was completed. Calculation completed. The effect of the current calculation skill is increased by 1/3, and it can be calculated again. It can be calculated again. Isn't every calculation able to increase to the current limit? Great Sage. The types of skills are different. Some skills have an upper limit due to objective reasons and are limited by the host itself, while some skills have no upper limit or are not limited by the host. This explanation made Shiyu somewhat understand. Leaving aside the chakra refining technique, there is no upper limit for swordsmanship. There are too many changes in the skills and applications of fencing. Whether to update the skill status. Of course, it needs to be updated, otherwise it will be calculated what it does. Skill update complete. The effect of this update is different from the chakra refining technique. which needs to be refined to feel the chakra. The improvement of swordsmanship made Shiyu's mind suddenly have many more swordsmanship skills that he didn't have before. It turns out that it can still be used like this. Although the effect is not stronger than the refining technique, the impact on Shiyu is not small at all. This made Shiyu even suddenly interested in swordsmanship. Continue to calculate. With just a third increase, Shiyu felt that his sword skills had completely entered another realm. It has nothing to do with speed, power or anything. Calculation begins. As Shiyu's blade trembled slightly, there was a faint sound of the blade across the air. It feels like the blade has become an extended part of the body. At the end of the calculation again, Shiyu's feeling became even stronger, and even his eyes seemed to reveal a sharp sword aura. His eyes became very sharp, like a blade, so strong. This is the real function of calculus. It is used to allow oneself to deduce the skills already mastered to an even more terrifying level. If the passive skill bar is used to increase experience, then the calculus is used to improve the realm. If this is the case, wouldn't it be possible to use it to develop new skills? Yes. Shiyu looked at the knife in his hand. Although the Konoha-style swordsmanship has become very strong due to the enhancement of the passive skill bar and calculation ability, but there's one major thing missing for ninja, and that's chakra. Konoha Ryu swordsmanship did not incorporate chakra's power. It blended into chakra. No. It should be said that what will become of the chakra attribute? Shiyu raised his hand. Chakra of fire and water attributes emerged at the same time, and it was easy for Shiyu to perform nature transformation of both attributes at the same time. Fire and water. Violent flames must be difficult to control. Water is more suitable. After all, it is a development, and Shiyu doesn't want to explode at every turn like when developing boil style. Swordsmanship and water. Shiyu thought of a good trick in a trance, and wondered if it could be realized with the help of calculation ability. Episode 29. Swordsmanship and Water Thinking Acceleration. The grove outside Konoha village. Old place. Shiyu came here with a ninja knife, and this place seems to have become Shiyu's secret training base. Basically, no one will bother you. Shiyu pulled out the ninja sword, and threw the scabbard at the side tree casually. Boom! A crisp sound sounded, and the scabbard pierced directly into the tree trunk. With Shiyu's pure physical strength now, a random blow might have the strength of 1,000 caddies. The tyranny of the physique is basically 10 times that of an ordinary ninja. In terms of physical strength alone, it is almost the same as the US team. Holding the ninja knife, he came to the center of the open space, and the surrounding lawns had already disappeared, turned into bare gravel. These are the traces left by Shiyu's practice here. The moonlight poured down overhead. Shiyu's shadow was stretched very long. Holding the knife in one hand and pointing forward, Shiyu let out a soft breath. Then let's try it now. Can the calculation ability achieve the effect I want? Great Sage. Whether to enable thinking acceleration, think, speed up? Shiyu was dumbfounded again. Is this also a new ability? Great Sage. The original ability was just damaged before. Shiyu sighed. Any other abilities that have been repaired? Great Sage. No more. Next time, if you fix any abilities, please let me know as soon as possible. Great Sage. Understand. Obviously, I had to take the initiative to apply for activation before. But why didn't I tell myself that my ability was restored? The skill of Great Sage makes Shiyu a little speechless now. What is the ability to think faster? Great Sage, as the name suggests, it increases the speed of perception to 1,000 times, and at the same time strengthens the thinking ability of the host to a certain extent, and the development of new abilities can also have a good effect. The speed of perception has increased by 1,000 times. What kind of concept is that? It's like a ray of light flying over, and others only feel it brighten up. But Shiyu can see the light, how many strands it is divided into, and when it was seen by him. Any objective information, Shiyu can feel far more than others. It is naturally effective for the development of new skills. Calculation begins. Based on the idea of the host, combined with the skills to perform preliminary calculations, current combined skill, Konoha Ryu swordsmanship, water style, 1%. Alright, let's start. Don't you need to do anything yourself? Great Sage. Host can use Konoha Ryu sword art while integrating water style into sword art as much as possible. The data and information generated will be calculated and analyzed by me, which can speed up the calculation speed. Shiyu watched the motionless calculation progress. Just wait like this, and don't know when the calculation will be completed. You should cooperate with yourself. Thinking about the ability to accelerate, Shiyu found that he seemed to be able to do better when he performed Konoha Ryu swordsmanship. At the same time, while controlling chakra to perform nature transformation, it seems to be completely at ease. Exercising swordsmanship at full strength once, performing chakra nature transformation once. Attach the chakra to the blade. Trying to release it, it doesn't seem to be too much of a problem. Before, Shiyu thought that he might have to work hard for a long time to barely achieve this step. I didn't expect to succeed all at once. There was a blue light on the blade, and a weak stream of water was flowing on the blade. 10%, 12%, 15%, 19%. The speed of the calculation suddenly accelerated, and Shiyu was a little unexpected, but this calculation speed is what Shiyu wished for. Integrating the water attribute chakra to perform the first stance of Konoha Ryu sword art, the water attribute chakra began to change. Even if Shiyu is concentrating on controlling the power, he still cannot avoid the temporary removal of the attached state of the water attribute chakra. It seems that it is not so easy to exert the power of chakra nature transformation at the same time when performing swordsmanship. Otherwise, this kind of swordsmanship would have been ruined long ago. However, Shiyu's failure directly increased the calculation progress by 10%. This made Shiyu very speechless. How come I failed, but it's still a good thing? However, Shiyu was not convinced. With his thinking speeding up, Shiyu seemed to have grasped something. Combining water style for the second time to perform Konoha Ryu sword art, the water attribute chakra is still firmly attached to the blade. But this process consumes a lot of chakra. From the first pose, from the second to the 10th pose, Shiyu only persisted halfway through, that is, from the 5th pose, and there was no way to maintain this state. And chakra's consumption is beyond Shiyu's imagination. Pure swordsmanship plus chakra nature transformation, the explosive power is nothing. Compared with the consumed chakra, Shiyu feels that the fusion of chakra attributes in swordsmanship is simply a waste of chakra. And it is no wonder that there is no swordsmanship infused with chakra attributes in the ninja world. Because the gain outweighs the loss, no one is willing to work hard in this area. Calculation completed. Combined skill Konoha Ryu sword art water style. According to the idea of the host, the calculation of the new skill water breathing was successful. Congratulations to host for acquiring a new skill, breath of water swordplay. In an instant, it was like a memory explosion in Shiyu's mind, and countless techniques about water breathing suddenly emerged. Really, did it succeed? Shiyu gripped the ninja knife tightly, his eyes became extremely sharp in an instant, and then stared straight ahead. A knife was swung out suddenly. The moment the knife was swung out, the sound of water flowed. One type water surface slash. Shiyu felt a slight blockage and uncomfortable feeling, but the moment the water swept across, the stake in front of Idao was chopped off in the middle, and the incision was very neat. Shiyu's blade didn't touch the stake at all. It's all thanks to the water attribute chakra. The second type water wheel. 3 types Lulu dancing. The type of wanton, the tide of blows. Wu Jixing the rain of kindness in the dry sky. Land type reverse Uzumaki. The 7th type Shizuku ripple stab. The 8th type Taketsubo. 9 type water spray. Picking up the shape life and life flow. And the last one, the shape of the 11th Nagi. After using a set of water breathing, the moves have become more consistent with what Shiyu remembered. But in terms of power, after Wu Jixing, the power doesn't seem to have improved much. On the contrary, the power has weakened. The latter tricks are not as good as the previous ones. Great Sage, you can continue to perform calculations to strengthen the power of the skills until the appearance in the memory of the host is fully realized. In other words, the calculation ability is insufficient, and it is only roughly calculated at present. If you want to truly become the breath of water, you need to continue to perform calculations. It seems that the role of the skill bar has come. Put water-breathing swordsmanship into the skill bar to increase experience. With the accumulation of experience in the skill column, let the great sage perform calculations to achieve exactly the same effect as in memory. Episode 30, Konoha's number 1 rich woman. Passive skill 7, breath of water swordplay. Complete a run. Shiyu slashed out with his sword again, and this time, the sound of running water became much stronger. The slashing waves formed by the water flow directly raged towards the distance. Beep. Easily cut off a branch of a tree. Although the water flow formed by the water attribute chakra nature transformation, the speed is not too fast. But the cutting force formed under the high-speed flow of water is very terrifying. Calculating. 1%. Water breathing completes a run, and the calculation completion degree increases by 1%. Although not much, at least Shiyu does not need to waste time, and the rest can be left to the great sage and the skill bar. Complete a run in 3 minutes, and the calculation speed will increase by 1%. In other words, one calculation can be completed in 300 minutes. After the calculation is completed, according to the great sage, at least 1 or 2 more power enhancements can be realized. For the remaining 5 formulas, it is conservatively estimated that at least 4 calculations are required. That is 1,200 minutes, exactly 20 hours. That's less than a day away. Don't worry at all. At the same time, every time the breath of water runs, it can also bring about the enhancement of water attribute chakra, as well as the enhancement of physique and speed. This skill covers more effects. Breath of water should not be regarded as pure swordsmanship. Strictly speaking, it should be regarded as the category of ninjutsu. Shiyu is very satisfied. Shiyu likes the calculus ability very much, but now the calculation ability is used to calculate the breath of water. There is no way to continue to calculate other abilities. I can only go here temporarily today. Originally, if each form of water breathing was separated, it would also be counted as a skill. Shiyu can directly start the calculation from the 6th formula, which makes the speed much faster. But the overall effect is definitely not that good. At that time, the overall calculation will be carried out, so Shiyu will not split it, since the time spent is only 1 day. Then carry out the overall calculation, so that not only can the following tricks be completely perfected, at the same time, the previous tricks can also be improved as a whole. Make the whole sword technique more perfect. Hokage version. Water breathing was a success. With swordsmanship, you need a good ninja sword even more. Shiyu looked at the ninja sword in his hand. This ninja sword is obviously not enough to perfectly burst out the power of the breath of water. So tomorrow, I have to get up early and go to the largest ninja tool shop in Konoha to buy or customize a good ninja sword. Shiyu looked up at the moonlight. Stay up late again tonight. After returning home, Shiyu fell asleep directly. When I woke up the next day, Shiyu felt the extremely full chakra in his body, and the amount of chakra tripled. If calculated by ordinary ninjas, Shiyu's current chakra is about 350 times that of ordinary people. This kind of terrifying amount of chakra is probably only comparable to the ninjas of the Senju clan in the whole Konoha. Not even Naruto of the Uzumaki clan can compare. Shiyu was very happy. I got up, washed up, cleaned up briefly, and went out early after breakfast. Arriving at Konoha's largest ninja shop, Shiyu looked at the store in front of him and hadn't entered yet. The figure who was fiddling with ninja tools at the door suddenly turned his head. Shiyu froze for a moment. Day by day, Niran Tian is Konoha's #1 rich woman. Her fighting style is something that other ninjas cannot learn. The hidden weapons that were thrown out were all money, although Tian should also recover, but with almost endless hidden weapons, Tian is indeed worthy of the title of rich woman. Little ghost, do you want to buy ninja gear? Tian glanced at Shiyu, although the other person was a little taller than himself, but looked at the immature face. And in Konoha's genin, Tian has never met each other. The opponent should not be a ninja, but looking at Shiyu's appearance, he is quite handsome, so Tian couldn't help brushing his hair. Yes. I want to buy a ninja sword, Ninja knife? Tian was stunned for a moment. It was already a bit too much for a ninja to buy ninja tools, and he also bought ninja knives. Ordinary genin can't bear the sword. Swordsmanship is not something that anyone can master. It is very good to be able to make good use of kunai. You are not a ninja? Asked every day. I haven't graduated yet. I'm a student of Konoha Shinobi School. Moonlight Shiyu. Shiyu simply introduced himself, emphasizing that I am a student of the ninja school. I suddenly thought of such things as ninja tools. I am afraid that ordinary people cannot buy them at will. Moonlight Shiyu? The Moonlight family. Well, since you are a student of the ninja school, why did you buy a ninja knife? Now you are not even genin, so I am afraid you can't use it. Although Tian thinks that Shiyu is quite handsome, he also looks a little not very smart. Ninja swords. When it comes to swordsmanship, the Moonlight clan doesn't seem to be a grandmaster swordsmanship ninja family. I haven't graduated yet at this age and want to use ninja swords. These genins, without even mastering the hidden weapons, started to aim high. As a senior, I feel that I need to let Shiyu know that although fighting with a ninja sword is very cool, if you don't have that talent, forget it. But Shiyu smiled. This has nothing to do with you, right? I buy ninja knives. If I can use them or not, isn't that my business? Kindly reminded, but the other party didn't seem to appreciate it. Put down the ninja in your hand every day. You little devils who haven't graduated yet, why don't you understand? I'm here for your own good. There are only a handful of ninjas in Konoha who use ninja swords to fight, and swordsmanship is not so easy to master. Look at you, you can't even use hidden weapons well, and you still want to use ninja swords. Shiyu sighed softly. You don't plan to make money if you have money? Humph. Selling ninja knives to you, making you hurt yourself, will actually ruin the reputation of our store. I won't make money if I have money. Whoosh! Suddenly a shuriken passed by Tian's ear. In the next second, the shuriken pierced directly into the wall behind Tian. A shuriken, completely submerged in the wall. Terrifying force. Terrifying speed. Let Tian suddenly froze for a moment. What a fast hidden weapon. Looking back at the crack left on the wall, he couldn't see how deep the hidden weapon pierced inside. What a strong force. Being able to throw a hidden weapon with such strength. This brat looks thin and weak. Why is he so strong? I'm afraid both wrist strength and Shaoli will have to fight. Tian turned around and looked at Shiyu in surprise.